Hi and welcome to the show. In this episode, we'll talk about the white box testing, and this is really important type of testing because we want to proceed in the direction where we want a developer to consider that it's his or her responsibility about the testing to verifying things that he or she have built. So white box testing is subdivided into unit test and integration test. Unit test is basically testing at a very lower level or at a unit level. It could be a method, it could be a function which is tested in an isolation manner, whereas integration test is testing multiple units together. So let's look at this with an example. So here in this example, let's assume we have a wing. So this is a wing of an aeroplane. That's the best I could draw. So that wing contains different light bulbs, and there are certain parts, movable part, which helps the plane to rise and dive and to make different turns. So if we focus on the unit testing, so we are testing each unit independently and in isolation. So this light bulb may work on the DC current, where we can use the batteries, small batteries, to test if this light is okay, if it's not fused, or if it doesn't have any problem. And then another unit is the toggler. So this is some kind of hardware which just toggle it, so it may turn on or turn off anything, like it could be a light bulb, a fan. So this is the unit level um, functionality of the toggler, whereas there is a circuitry or a panel which just receive the AC current or a power source which is with more voltage, and it turns into multiple lower voltage sources, and it may convert from the AC to DC, something like that. So we can test all these individual part independently. So when we are performing that, then it means it is a unit test. So let's say this is again the wing where this bulb is attached to the toggler. This toggler has a power source that is coming from the panel, and this panel is providing the power to the other toggler as well. And this is attached to the main power source where the distribution of the power is happening. So this is lot more unit together. So let's say we want to test if the bulb, this toggler, and this panel together. So this is called the integration test because we are integrated them, and we are just trying if they work together or not. So maybe we just provide here the power source, not from here but from another source, or some mocking power, something like that, and we just verify that okay, if this is working. Or we can directly bring small batteries and test this bulb is working or not by disconnecting this from here, and then just directly test it. So it's the unit test and the integration test. We are combining different units. So this is the flow of the unit, like from here to this panel, from the panel to the toggler, and from the toggler to the bulb itself. So as far as the component is concerned, so this whole wing could be one component, and we test everything in that component. But again, the component, as I explained, is a logical separation. It's a logical grouping. So I can see, like, this is my component has two bulbs, uh, a toggler which can toggle two things, and the panel and the power source. So this complete is just one component. Another component is are these wings, movable parts, where it helps the plane to rise or dive. So again, it depends how the business see it, if the business consider it as a component or it as a service. So this complete could be one microservice, or these two together with this thing is called one component, and these two movable parts with this panel is another component. So basically, this is a very virtual kind of boundary, and it always depend on the business how they define it. So from the service or the component level testing, we go to the system wide testing. So we test everything within the system. So maybe here some part is talking to this box, and this box is then talking to the next box, and the next box, and finally the third box. So in such a sort of testing, everything is tested within the system, or the flow is testing, which may comprises of all these services within a single system. So maybe a power check where we just turn on single button on the control panel here in the cockpit, and it may turn on the AC, it may turn on the lights and the oxygen flow and the temperature control lights under the seats, or maybe turn on the display on the back of your seats, or it can check if the wings are working by rotating certain movable parts. So this test now consists of everything. It touches everything within the system just to make sure that it is working, everything is in place, and all the readings are good. And if there is some problem, then that can be identified at a very high level or at a system level. So now if we talk about the end-to-end test, where we go beyond the boundary of the system. So this plane was our system, and now we are out of the boundary. So there could be a use case where we want to test if we want to take off. We want to check if something is in the near vicinity, or if a plane is coming. We can get the information from that, or maybe we can talk to the actual airport or the tower or the air traffic control, and there could be other software or system which enable us to access this plane. So if we run such test which is beyond the boundary, which test other parts or other system which are external to our system, that's called the end-to-end testing. Let me show you the same concept in another way. So here we can see here these different units. So each box is one unit. So if we target just one unit, so it is unit testing. So if we target multiple unit together, this is the integration test. And this combination, this joining, this grouping capability enable us or unlock for us the way to perform test in different perspective. So here we can see that we can combine multiple flows, multiple tests together to call it component. So this is our component test where we are testing 2 3 4 things together. So it's more broader from the integration. And then we can say that we have an end-to-end test where we jump from one system, one runtime to another system. So this could present the tier. So we might have multi-tier application, multi-tier system. So from here we are jumping to another tier, and we are testing different units together. So this use case is a system-wide test, and if it go beyond the boundary of this whole thing, then it could be end-to-end test. So if we look at the Malta airline example, so this is the REST API or a microservices architecture where each service is a REST based service, and we can then deep dive in one of the service. So this is one example service where we have the controller class, we have the service class and repository. So controller is just to map the URL. Service layer or service class has the business functionality or business logic, and repository is interacting with the database, writing queries or different mappings on the table from the object. So this is how our system is. So this single method is one unit. So if I'm targeting this one unit, it is the unit level testing. So if I'm targeting all these three in the flow, it's the regression testing, because I'm testing multiple units together. And this whole thing for me, in this example, these all methods within one a resource could be a component for me. So let's say it's a student, add, edit, delete, list, all these or patch, these all are for me are combined together called a component. But for another example, a component could be a certain set of classes which help us send email, or other set of classes which help us send an SMS or push notification. Again, as I explained, component is the logical thing, and it depends on your business, your domain, where you can call certain thing as a component. And I just show you two examples here. So this could be another component where it has a single functionality and a single integration test. So this is one boundary, this is one microservice, right? And this one microservice is talking to another microservices, and that may be writing something into the database, and this service is also talking to the notification service. This notification service again is writing something to the database. And if we run such a test which consists of multiple runtimes, multiple services within boundary of the system, such type of test is called system test, because it's testing your whole system and everything within that system for a particular flow. Whereas an end-to-end testing is we even go beyond our boundary. So this multi-airline system can have other dependent services, external system. So when we want to send an SMS, we can talk to the clickatel. This is a gateway, SMS gateway, or green SMS is another gateway, or we can use the GCM or APNS to send the push notification. So that's how the division of the testing is for the white box testing. So white box testing, unit testing, and integration testing. And integration testing unlocks us, it allows us to group different unit together. So by combining those unit, I can call it a component, I can call it a system wide test, or I can plan actually the system wide test, or I can plan end-to-end test which goes beyond our system. So these two are basically the types of black box testing. So when we write the code or when we are planning, so we can utilize the same concept here in the integration testing. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.